Hi, welcome back to Smith and Gressie. This is the last programme for 2025. And on this programme, we'd like to just discuss a few podcasts that we've done already in this year and look at a few of the salient points that have come up through that and inform our listeners what we're going to be doing in 2026. One of the best podcasts in my mind, was one by Richard Wilton of Shepherd Band in York.
Yeah, that we did that one back in April, and I know sometimes people think we're always moaning and things, which I know we are to a certain extent, but we just want things to be right and good. But with Bandon having so many problems, Richard was a real beacon of how he goes about organising his organisation and sort of developing players in that. And I thought there was, for those listeners who maybe missed the odd podcast, I think this is worth going back for a bit of a re-listen to. So we'll just play a little excerpt of it now and then see what he's got to say for himself.
There are only 2 brass perries in the city. I'm one of them.
Right.
So, How on earth does this happen in York? It's a brilliant question, and I'm not even sure if I know the answer to it. Other than what I do love, and what we've tried to we work really well with the hub. We don't have any money, we don't have any funding from the hub or anything, but we are sort of now seen as the go-to place for brass education. Yeah. And that for me, that just affirms everything we do and hours we put in.
I think what I'm trying to get across, Richard, is because you're not from a traditional brass band area, you've obviously made your own tradition. Okay, it's not quite as long, but you're obviously going down the right track with it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I totally agree with that. I mean, with being a peripatetic, because I know one of the questions I get, a lot of people will actually ring up conductors of other bands, so we want to try and I've had quite a lot of meetings in the last few years where I've gone along to other bands' committee meetings and sat in, and that it's often the question, Simon. It's often how do we do it?
Yeah.
And I don't think
which is what we're interested in.
Yeah, it's really good, isn't it? It's really interesting. But I think where are the really successful groups? So if you take what we're doing at Shepherd's, I think I would have to obviously put Sam in there at Elland.
Yeah.
The Amersham guys, the Wantage guys. These are the guys with really, really big organisations.
I know NWI was there. They've got 5 bands.
Absolutely. So, and they listened to NWI actually last week at the Youth Champs with their youth band. And I think, I don't know, there seems to be a bit of a common denominator in that they're driven by a brass perry.
Yeah.
And I think you can't sort of underplay that because... Go on, Sandy.
Well, I'm just thinking, I mean, this is fascinating stuff. And I know, like, when we phone each other up, Richard, it's all of a sudden it's like an hour later and it's like 5 minutes. What's coming across is the reason for the success of these places is exactly people like you, right? The enthusiasm is like sparking through this talk, and as to that. So one of the reasons why it's successful is because it's driven by a live wire like yourself, and that's the catalyst, isn't it? It's you, Martin Hall, Sam Harrison, Lee Rigg, Brad McCulloch at
absolutely agree,
and Jane and all these people.
There's Helen Minshall. There's some Just recently, it's starting to explode, and like you rightly say, there's a lot of doom and gloom about banding. But actually, when you lift up that next piece of paper, there's a lot of good things going on.
Do you find, Richard, that a lot of these youngsters coming through, and they're obviously progressing through these groups, that yes, the music and the playing is one thing, but the camaraderie and the social side and all that, is it because those kids feel a belonging?
A belonging,
and a sort of, they're in a big group, and it's it sort of gets the juices going, sort of thing,
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely agree. I think it 100% is that, and it's a really good point, because one of the things we've done, and again, this is not. There isn't money on a plate just to go and do things that other people can't do. This is all fundraising and parental support, and we've used as much funding as we can to help the kids that couldn't possibly afford to do this. But
so there you go. That was the man himself talking about it, and yeah, all right. There is a secret, but the secret is damn hard work and a live wire personality like Richard or all the other people we mentioned, taking this by the scruff of the neck and generating banders.
It's also wonderful, Sandy, that Richard said that he'd been out to other bands to help them get a blueprint in place. So
I think, if anybody that's missed that podcast and maybe thought there wasn't, maybe if they missed it for whatever reason, go back and have a listen and just see what he's saying, because the secret is just the hard work. It's just that. But he's so passionate. He was always a passionate guy when he was playing at Grimy. Yeah. When I was there, and he's just carried that on and blossomed out into this Pied Piper.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of them around the country, but this is how you do it. This is how banding will be not saved, right? But it'll develop for the future is by the work that these people are doing. And people need to sort of say, how do they do it? Yeah. Tell me how you do it so I can try that in my band.
So the recommendation, Sandy, is anybody who is looking at this, have a look back on that podcast. It was 20th of April 2025, and it's headlined Wilton of York.
Yeah, that's the one. The second one I thought we would have a look at is last December we did one called Christmas Wishes and New Year Resolutions, and we had our good friends who are always good value for money, Andy Baker and Andy Cook, on.
I always enjoy their company.
Yeah, I mean, we've known the both the Andys for a long time, and they're just fascinating. But one of the ideas that Andy Baker came up with, and I thought, re-listening to this, I thought, this is a cracking idea still. It was that every top section band was to adopt a local youth community or 4-section band and support them with tuition, guest soloists, etc. I'll let Andy explain that one. Okay. And this is just Andy Baker's thoughts on hooking bands up, and I just don't think there's a bad thing to say about it.
It would be lovely to see every one of our top section bands adopt another band, so a 4th section unregistered youth band, something like that. Now I know, for example, Foden's already do this with Lions Youth Band, and they've got their own youth band. But they'll kind of run masterclasses and joint concerts and things. I just think it would be a good way for bands that are kind of at the top of our hobby to help disseminate some of their knowledge and their learning. So you could have the solo cornet player go and run a cornet sectional for them, or do a cornet masterclass or whatever. The solo youth go and help out at a concert and be the guest soloist or whatever. Just kind of support the lower end of the pyramid. At the moment, it sometimes feels as though all the traffic is one way, so the kind of bottom end of the banding pyramid is where players kind of learn their craft and develop, and then they move on to the top section and kind of leave that behind. It'd be nice if some of the traffic was a bit two-way sometimes.
There is a few good examples kicking about, Andrew. Obviously, Black Diet with the Yorkshire Youth, which is a great little project that has been going quite a long time now. But that is bandsmen, bands ladies, bands persons coming together from all different bands. What you're saying is a literal going linked to one band.
Yeah.
That's great.
Adopt another band. So, just pick a 4-section or an unregistered band in your area, and not forever, but maybe for a year. No. Just say, look, we'll be your partners for the next year. We'll maybe do a joint concert at the end of the year to kind of celebrate what we've learned and Just help them out, I think.
Yeah. I think, like you alluded, Foden's have got their youth umbrella.
And they've got their own Foden's youth band as well, which they run, but they're quite involved with the Lions youth band. Where they'll go along, and I don't know the details of it, but I assume that Mark will pop along and help out with the cornets, and Gary will pop along and help along with the youths and baritones and that kind of thing.
I mean, going back to my experience as a younger band, I mean, I came up through YBS Junior Brass. Now we were what used to be Hammond Hawley B Band when YBS got first involved with the whole organisation. So there was us, there was YBS Concert Brass in the middle, and then there was YBS Top Band that obviously Simon was in. But one of the things that we got quite good at was once a year we'd get invited in to do a joint rehearsal with YBS Concert Brass. I mean, we never got in with YBS Top Band, obviously, because they were far too busy. But for us as all first started out players and unregistered players and that sort of thing, just to go in and sit and do a rehearsal and run a load of stuff that we knew, and I'm sat between, they were section 2, section 1 in those days or something like that, sat between players like that, you learn so much. And more than that, it's always a good, fun experience because you start to realise that all of these players who are at all these levels above you, they're just people. And most of them are actually quite sound. So the fear factor of going up against people like that, it goes away. And it was a universally positive thing for me. I took nothing but good things away from that kind of thing. So even if it's just a joint rehearsal, even if you don't do the concert or something like that, just sitting in with a band like that, because you raise your game and you learn stuff. It's great in the formative years for players.
Corey do that. Corey will have a sit-in day. I think they've got one advertised for early in the new year where they get kids under 18, sort of grade 5 to 8 from local youth bands to come and sit in with a rehearsal with them. And I mean, I think that's all it is. So they might do a quick kind of performance for the mums and dads at the end, but I think they just basically get them to come along, sit in a rehearsal, experience what that kind of level of performance is about. I will just pull up on one thing Andy said, which is that they didn't do it with the YBS senior band because they didn't have the time because they were too busy. I'm not having that.
No, you're right.
I'm not having that.
You're right. A few of us used to, try and get it so we were helping out, but it was never pushed through. I've got to say though, it wasn't as important in them days. We'd not hit crisis point with bringing players through. I'm not defending it because I was pro going and helping. Have you ever had any experiences, Sandy?
I mean, going right back, the junior band, I started in Whitburn Junior Band, and we did joint concerts. They still do. I've seen things on Facebook recently where, they have the organisation have a concert. Ellen do the same sort of thing. But I mean, thinking about this idea of Andy's, I don't think the benefits are wholly one way either. It's not just to the benefit of the youth band. It benefits the top section band as well, because they've got a chance then to do a joint concert. They're expected to show what they can do. So there's a wee bit of pressure there. And because you've got a collaboration, basically. We all know what happens when you have to do a concert with a choir. You get two different audiences there. So you've got the senior band, if you want to call it that, their clientele coming to concerts, and then you've got this fourth section, youth section type band, bringing all their supporters. So you're going to get a healthier audience, I would have thought.
Yeah. I would just point out that we've talked about a lot of bands that are kind of examples of best practice that have already got youth bands, like Ellen, like Foden's, like the Whitburn organisation, and we can name a few others. There's a lot of championship bands that don't have a youth band of any real description that could pick a local, doesn't have to be a youth band, local non-contesting band, and just say, look, we'll do a couple of rehearsals a year with you. We'll send a couple of our principals along to help your sections out a couple of times a year. At the end of the year, we'll do a joint concert.
That's a really good thing, because one of the problems with setting up a youth band is having the infrastructure, having the instruments available and that kind of thing as well. So setting up your own youth band is a real headache, and massive props to the bands that have actually done it, that have managed to find the finance to do it. But it's much cheaper, it's much more economical, and it's much easier to do for a top section band to actually go out to a band that already exists and say, okay, we'll take you under your wing a bit. It's certainly a lot more feasible.
Over the years, I've been asked to go and do sectionals with lower section bands, and I've got to be honest, from my perspective, I've always enjoyed doing that.
Yeah.
I think the thing about you is practice at organising concerts as well for everybody, because everybody has to be more self-sufficient these days. We were lucky in the bands we played with. We got engagements coming in from all over the place, and we would just accept them or not accept them. But nowadays, I think you've got to generate your own. And if a top section band is looking to do one or even two concerts a year with another local band, then there's all sorts of benefits. Keeps the band regularly out and playing. I mean, that was one of the complaints I used to get when I was a real youngster at Whitburn Band. Alec Melville, the principal cornet player, says, why don't we just get out into the local academy school hall once a month? Play, do it for nothing. You don't get contacts. Everybody's got contacts in local school. Do it for nothing. He says it's better than playing in front of an audience than it is just sat in the band room. Yeah, for another night. So that sort of thing. We're getting bands that maybe don't have that many engagements, and we know how hard it is now. To get something else organised, it benefits youth bands. I can't think of anything negative to say about this one. I think it's a great idea.
I do.
I think more bands should take it up.
So there you go. Andy Baker's Adopt a Band scheme. I cannot think of a bad thing about it. Right? Top section bands hook up. He explained it all. I don't need to re-explain it. But I haven't seen a lot of movement on that. But it just seems such a logical thing to do, especially if you're in an area that has bands from all the sections. You hook up, attract people, make bands want to play. That's how kids do it with football. You get involved with local teams and develop them like that. I think there's so many good things.
Well, I'm going to hold my hand up here, Sandy. I'm actually putting this plan into action with the help of yourself and Morgan and cornet tutors, trombone tutors, and myself with the lower end, with Dronfield's area preparation.
Yeah.
I feel it's got real merit, really has.
I just think it's such a no-brainer, and it's such a good idea. I think that's, again, go back and have a listen to them, and see how see what else you can pick out from that Christmas wishes and New Year resolution podcast from December last year.
Yep.
The third thing I thought was certainly had it had given us a lot of feedback and it sort of made a lot of discussion was when we did a podcast called Area Aftermath and More Serious Matters at the beginning of April.
Yeah.
And we discussed the issue of the continuing stories of, well, there's no way to sort of dress it up, paedophiles and sex offenders emerging who had connections in the banding world and being prosecuted, and how we as a banding community might better protect all young people from exploitation. Yeah. It's an emotive issue, and we did explain a lot about it, especially our connections, both of us, as me being in school, you being a foster carer. And unfortunately, since we did this podcast, there have been more issues come to light.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just think it's worth re-listening to a bit of the conversation again.
Okay.
To see how important this is.
We Brass Bands England, to the credit, do a lot of good work.
They do. Yeah.
In helping people with information regarding safeguarding, sorting out DBS checks and all this. But it can't just stop there. If they're offering them services, they've got to go that bit further. And if there's people involved in banding that they well know have got problems, everybody should be notified that, you might just want to stay clear of this.
To steer clear. Yeah, you're right.
Because you can't just say, oh, well, we just issue forms out and we act as support. One day somebody will turn around and cut your legs off and say, I'm using Brass Bands England. They are out there offering these services, but I had a lovely reply from Mike Kilroy, and he was basically, they can't do much about it.
Yeah, I get that, and I'm certainly not chastising them in any way. They are trying, and it's a minefield, this. But
we've got to have a body in England, and I would suggest it is Brass Bands England, because they've got a lot of credibility, who can handle cases like this if there's reports of wrongdoing, bad behaviour against anything like this, abhorrent behaviour. People need to be told.
Well, I mean, you told me about the online course you went on.
Oh my God. I went on this course, Sandy, and I have to do it regular as part of my duties as a foster parent. And it was going on about most sexual abuse starts from something very innocent.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like an acorn.
Right.
They said to me, it is 90-odd% certain that they will move on to something else.
Right.
And we've got to spot these signs that something is going on, something is not right. And, they're not my figures, those. They're from the NSPCC, and they are 90% certain that they will move on to something else.
So people that end up, God, it just makes me bloody skin crawl talking about it. People that end up sexually abusing minors, start off low scale.
Yeah, very
grooming.
Yeah. It's not just grooming, Sandy. It can be all manner of things. But
I know we have to be,
for sure, move on.
I know we have to be careful, and we're getting ourselves into a pickle here with it. But I just feel bloody angry that that because we both work with vulnerable kids.
Yeah, we do.
Right, and the thought that some people might be trying to or have tried to exploit these kids in any sort of way whatsoever, any child. I don't know what we can do. I don't know how we, there should be more sharing of information. Organisations need to be more open about listening to concerns about people. I mean, you hear rumours, there are things knocking about. You don't know what the hell's really going on, or, and I know it's the guilt, innocent before proven guilty stuff and all that.
I'm a big believer.
But when it's concerns about stuff like this, I mean, I don't know. What do we do? Do we? How far do you take it? How far do you take this enhanced DBS thing as a start? Is it for conductors? Is it for anybody in a band? If they have an underage person in it, I don't know. It's a difficult one.
I've had an enhanced DBS for years, and I've conducted bands, so I'm comfortable because there's lots of people there. Mm-hmm. And then I once had to do a percussion sectional with one percussionist, but I made sure there was somebody else there with me.
Yeah.
She was a female, and I made sure I covered myself. And you've got to do this. The thing is, enhanced DBSs don't tell you everything.
No.
It's only at that moment the test is done.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're going to be naughty, and you know that you possibly might be making a bit of money out of banding, adjudicating, conducting, doing teaching, it should be a deterrent. The thought of having an enhanced DBS. If I get caught out doing this, I better not do it. To me, like you say, if it stops one child or one young person
suffering like that young lady, it's we have to try and do something. And I have seen online people say, and rightly be torn down by other people saying, this is Facebook's, it's not the place to be talking about this. Well, it bloody is, I'll tell you.
Oh, it is.
And to be fair, that person, that bloke was roasted.
Yeah.
And they said, no, this is exactly the right place. We need to talk about this.
Yeah.
We need to get it out. We can get, I mean, we can go on and on. I just think, it's a horrendous situation, and we have to do anything we can to root out anyone who either has had or wants to have the intention to act in the same way.
Right. Well, that was certainly interesting. It's like you say, we both work in the interested sectors. I'm a foster parent. You're a school teacher. Now, it's funny, because once that programme had gone out, our post bag was as big as ever.
Yeah.
And the amount of people that wanted to talk to me, I can't speak for yourself, Sandy, but they came talking to it. Do you know about this? Do you know about that? Do you know about this?
Yeah.
And it was quite alarming. What I will say, Sandy, this has got to stop. Bands are shielding people with even low-grade offending, but let me assure you that low-grade offending, it's like a little acorn. It will grow and grow and grow, and they shouldn't be doing it.
That's what you said on that extract.
And they shouldn't be doing it, and they need to take these bands, organisations who actually know what they've got in the band, need to take a long, hard look at themselves and do something about it. It's not acceptable.
Yeah, you're right. It's not acceptable, and suppose one of a little heartening thing is that we had so much contact from people who are worried, and also that I know that both here and abroad, some people, organisations, have started to distance themselves from certain people who have a bit of this hanging over them, as potentially, and I know it's very dangerous to start talking about this the way we are, potentially being involved in stuff like this. It's a difficult situation, but we have to get rid of it. We can't be protecting people and ignoring facts and instances that seem to be quite well documented.
Yeah.
I just think it's sickening. And again, it does hit home a little bit harder because we both deal with vulnerable kids.
Yeah.
And you just don't want anything like this to be going on.
No, absolutely.
But it wasn't all doom and gloom.
Well, it wasn't, one of my favourite ones, and to be honest, a lot of us listeners enjoyed this. It was from one of our celebrity podcasts, and it was the one and only Billy Rushworth. And we did the podcast about Billy and his remarkable family. And, it really was good fun to record. And here's a little flavour of the fun we had on that one.
I hadn't realised that my mother's uncle, he got killed down the pit, and he was Principal Cornet with Frickley in the 20s.
Oh.
Billy Hickman, because we all remember Jim Hickman, don't we?
I was going to say, any relation to Jim?
Yeah.
Well, here's the story, Simon. You've led me straight into this one. They'd been round Southampton after a rehearsal one night, and they lived at the same house. I think either Jim must have been lodging with me Auntie Eleanor or something like that. And they'd had a few pints, and they got arrested for drunken disorderly. It's true story. So when they're getting questioned, they go and say, name Hickman, Bill, and gave the addresses wherever they lived in Southampton. And then it was Jim's turn. He says, Hickman, Jim, same address, no relation. Because Jim Hickman, he was actually the first conductor I played for when we first come back. I did Whit Friday with Clifton and Lightcliffe.
He was a wonderful character. I'll tell you a little story that I got told years ago. Alan Exley, the great Alan Exley, went for a cornet lesson to Jim.
Town fan as well, if you don't mind me adding.
Yeah, Huddersfield Town. Anyway, so Alan Exley, young lad, and he had hair then, turns up to Jim Hickman's, and Jim must have said, play me a G or a C, whatever, one single note, and he's hanging on to it. And while he's doing this, he's lighting his pipe. And all of a sudden, Alan Exley fell off the note, and he says, "Right, that's the first fault with your playing." He says, "That can't sustain."
Hey, Simon, we've got to tell that little story. On the podcast about a month ago, we did an interview with John Gillam.
Yeah.
Oh.
And when we stopped recording, John told this brilliant story about Jim Hickman. I'm going to have to try it. It'll be absolutely nothing like John told it. But in the very late 60s, 69 at Brighouse, they were doing those concerts in Huddersfield Town Hall. You know, the one in March, one in October, that sort of stuff. You know, so. Whenever it was, or whenever they did them, it might have been different months, but they had a band boss, but people were starting to get cars, you see. So they just being across the hill, you know, into Huddersfield, a lot of the lads in the band were travelling in cars. So there was a band boss, but I think Jimmy got to the band room in Brighouse, the old band room, and there was nobody there, but except a lot of the women committee that were there to provide all the bodies and everything else. And so the bus was full of women, right? Mm-hmm. And Jimmy was most, you know, disturbed by the fact there weren't any men in the band room, you know, to help him and stuff. And apparently, the next rehearsal, he says, we have to have a chat. He says, where were you all? You know, you all went in bloody cars, like, you know, you should have been on the band bus. He says there was more men stood on the moon last weekend than there was on our band bus. He says,
oh, God.
You know, and that was Jimmy Hickman. You know,
he was a real character.
So, yeah, unfortunately, it was me telling that story about the men on the moon, but it was such a good story from John Gillam. I thought Bill would appreciate it, and he did. It just shows you the characters in Bandon. I don't know if they've, you know, there probably still are characters we don't know about, but we were very blessed to have people, you know, like Billy and his Uncle Charlie and all this sort of stuff, and his dad and Jim Hickman and all this, you know, knocking about in Bandon, and that we still sort of interacted with to a certain extent. But it was certainly a fascinating podcast when Bill was talking about the family. I had no idea about some of those things, you know. And again, if people are sitting there over the Christmas and New Year period with a glass of wine or a beer or something, and you want to laugh for an hour, then and an education, listen to Billy. It was brilliant. It was so good, and we had loads of people saying afterwards how well he came across, and it was just good fun, you know, and a fascinating story. So that
there's mileage in asking Billy to do another one on a different subject soon.
Oh no, I know.
It'd be funny.
Yeah. So that was that one. One that kept coming back, and is a big topic of conversation at the minute, is about this current trend of louder, faster, higher, longer type test pieces, which are appearing all over the place. And we did a podcast back in August, which we called Symphonies of Self-Indulgence. And again, we had our good friends Andrew Baker and Andy Cook on, and there was a really good discussion in the middle of that. And it was Andy Cook that led this bit. And I just think it's worth having a listen to this again, because he sums it up at the end of this little excerpt as to exactly what we need from music going forward for brass bands. So let's have a listen to that. I noticed that I just had a conversation with Ewan earlier today, and he was on about the National Youth Band, which is doing really well at the minute. Yeah. And Martin Brabbins has got them this week, and two of the pieces that he's picked for the programme, there is some new stuff. Two of the pieces he's picked is Pageantry and Variations on a Shining River, Edmund Rubra.
Yeah.
And I think he wants to. I mean, he's well known for his champion of British music, but I think he wants to find out how these young kids, how they find that sort of piece, Shannon River. They'll never have heard it before, probably. How do they tackle it? Do they like it? Is it hard for them? I think it's a bit of an experiment and things, but it's just good to see those sort of pieces, because that's technical in a very, very different way, those sort of pieces. I'm not on about, going back to that, but do we need pieces that last 18 minutes, 20 minutes to differentiate between any bands?
No, but I think we need pieces that last 20 years, 30 years, 40 years in people's consciousness, and that's what we're missing.
So there you go, Andy Cook. We don't need music that lasts for 20 minutes. We need music that lasts for 20, 30, 40 years.
That's got to be that's got to be quarter of the year for me.
When he said it live on that podcast, I thought, bloody hell, that's so astute. And it, it got me thinking, how much of this stuff that we've got in, and I know we've had discussions before. We had discussions with you and Fox did a big article on choice test pieces from the European that I've never seen the light of day again. They're almost disposable music. Let's bamboozle them for 20 minutes and then let's not look too closely into what these pieces are made up of, because it doesn't bear close examination. There have been some recent developments, though, since then. We did that podcast in August. There's been a lot of the national championships in Europe, the back end of this year, October, November time. And there are one or two things starting to take place. Ewan told me that in Switzerland, they had this thing in place, and it did affect two or three of the bands in the top section. They're trying to get the bands on and off stage quicker, right? So that this huge setup with a battery of percussion is taking longer and longer, and then at the end of it, every Tom, Dick, and Harry gets stood up individually for a bit of a round of applause, as if that's going to change the adjudicators' minds. Maybe it does with some, I don't know. But it's just getting out of hand. So what they've introduced is they have a countdown. Each band is allowed, apparently, 30 minutes from going on the stage to set up to getting off the stage. And they're counted down. So apparently what happened was, behind the cornets on the left-hand side, a bloke came out with a big card that said 3, which was, you've got 3 minutes left to get off, right? Yeah. Not to finish your playing, and then 2, and then one of the bands, he said that it got down to 1. They held the card up. You've got 1 minute. The piece finished, and they just took a quick bow and got off. Because even the Swiss are getting sick of it, right? Yeah. I don't think it's necessary, but we are getting still to the stage where there's an awful lot of that old John Fletcher quote about tuba music being written by tuba players for tuba players to play and tuba players to listen to, and that sort of thing. We've still got, we're seeing an awful lot of band test pieces written by banders, players who are in bands for banders to listen to. Again, we've moaned on about it for ages. We need to get back to proper composers. A lot of it just sounds anonymous, but we're going to be discussing that in much more detail next year as well. So, I mean, there have been, some questionnaires sent out, I think, to some of the top bands about what they fancy playing, and with a time limit on, and some of the results I've heard are quite interesting. The composers that come out on top and the type of music they want doesn't include some of this stuff.
Right.
It's I don't know. There's loads of questions about that which we can discuss again next year. Is this overblown pomposity type test piece really required to separate bands, or is it just sort of flim flam and twaddle just to I don't know. It's certainly, a lot of it sounds to my ears incoherent stylistically and compositionally. But there we go. We can discuss that more. But I just think that quote of Andy's, to go back to it, music will last for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years instead of 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I can't think of a better one than that. That was good stuff.
We had a fabulous time one night going to see the legend that is Derek Broadbent. We went to his house up in Wyke, Bradford, and we had a fabulous. Well, it ended up being about 3.5 hours, I believe.
Yeah.
Because we had to split the podcast into two. It was so long. The enthusiasm that still comes out from Derek is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And, and he's got an amazing memory of facts, figures, you name it. And one of the big things, right at the end of his podcast, his second podcast, he started talking about adjudication. So shall we have a little listen to what Derek said?
Yeah, this one is a bit more substantial of an excerpt.
Yeah.
But it's worth it. And Derek is very coherent, he's very measured, and he's very astute in what he's saying about the qualities of what he considers the qualities that a good adjudicator should have.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that from his he was there in the late 90s at the conception of the Adjudicators Association, and how things seem to be slightly different these days. And I think he's sort of putting the record straight slightly as to what he considers the qualities that a good adjudicator could have. It's certainly worth a listen. I mean, obviously, listen to both the podcasts, because the history of what he got up to in Bandon is fascinating. But this, I think, it's certainly worth a listen. Let's have a listen to Derek talking about his ideas on adjudication.
But what bothers me or concerns me is that when I go to a concert to listen, not as an adjudicator, but I do go to the Spring Festival and go to the Open, and not so sorry from a distance to the Open. Not from the Open, but because of the quality. But I go to listen to bands and have a concert, and I hear a band play something wrong that should have been put right by the conductor. I'm not talking about technical errors or anything like that. Yeah. People have got techniques and they can only go so far with the technique. That's all they can possibly do. I'm talking about some basic things. Yeah. When I hear those wrong, and the conductor of that band purports to be an adjudicator, I think, how can you do that? How can you judge a band when you can't put your own band? Yeah. Right, and I'm talking now absolute basics.
Sandy, this goes back to that list you came up with.
Yeah,
I don't know what time span it was, but
I'll tell you when it was. I talked about this, but I spoke to Derek about it a couple of days ago. We were organising this. Yeah, from the 90s back to the 70s, and from not just top section, there was a lot smaller. Not a cartel. That's a group of adjudicators. Yeah, but those that were judged in the top section. There was Roy and Peter, Roy and the Major did the second section at the Northwest area one year. Roy Newsom and Peter Pars were the two judges. But you've got people like Derek, David Reed, Jim Scott, Walter Hargreaves, these people all judging lower sections as well, And so there was a quality sort of control of the judges. It doesn't matter how complicated the test pieces are. Whether they're from an era long gone by, for lower sections, or whatever, those things are not in the picture, because making music, for starters, is about three things. There are three ingredients
into playing music. They're not negotiable, but two of them aren't cast in stone. And the first one, and the most important one, is the sound the band makes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's a pretty good bet that if you don't make a good noise on a counter, you won't beat the band that does.
No, that's a really good quote, that, because you see, I was expecting that maybe if you don't make a good sound, you won't win. Well, the trouble is, if you've got a load of bands making a crap sound, one of them's going to win. But the way that Derek put it,
if there's one that does,
it's you. That's a really cool.
It's very difficult. I'm not saying it hasn't happened, but because I can't speak for all the adjudicators, I'm not trying to, and I'm not talking. I'm talking about making music.
Yeah.
And nothing else. And these are the ingredients that are in the band room, right? And the first one is the sound of the band. Now, some people like a rich, old, sonorous noise that years ago they used to call a northern sound.
Mm-hmm.
Right, fine, a great sound. Others like a sound that's a bit plainer, a bit less vibrato, a bit more straight. Again, and I don't know why they ever called it this. Used to call it an orchestral sound.
Yeah.
I don't know why they ever called it that, but it had that nickname of an orchestral sound. Well, if that's what you like, it's a preference. There's nothing wrong with it. Yeah? Others like a big, bold, brassy sound that's right in your face. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, no.
But so that's not cast in stone. There are three preferences, except if it's not in tune.
Yeah.
And if it's not in tune, it can't be a good noise. And that's impossible.
Never again.
It's totally and utterly impossible if it's not in tune.
Yeah.
Right. Adjudicators, myself included, I've done this. We've written not quite in tune, slightly out of tune, spot of tuning, whatever. Right. No such a thing. It's either in tune or it isn't.
Yeah.
You know, it's the adjudicators being nice when you...
Yeah. So again, we're going to say that.
Because there's no such a thing. I'm not going to get involved in the difference between intonation and tuning, because that's on paper, or it's in playing. The end product's the same.
Yeah.
But if you're not in tune, it can't be a good noise. And if you don't make a good noise, you're struggling to beat a band that does.
Yeah.
And that's
it's so true. So it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's number one. And number two, and I love this one, is rhythm.
Yeah.
R-H-Y-T-H-M. You don't get me any adjudicators right in that.
No.
I think I'll spell it.
Just right R and then a bit of a scribble and M at the end.
No, it's not. Rather untidy, not quite together, a bit loose. All those things. Rhythm, R-H-Y-T-H-M. But ask the question, what is rhythm? And rhythm has got a dead simple answer. And I'm not talking now about styles. I'm not talking about when people say samba rhythm or a look.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the rhythm of music.
Yeah.
Right. And it doesn't matter what you play. I don't care if it's the hardest piece in the world or a nice tune like Edelweiss or whatever. Just no matter what it is. Rhythm. What is rhythm? And it's a dead easy answer. It's putting the notes in the right lengths. And there's only one right place for every single note in the musical alphabet. There's only one.
Yeah.
There's a lot of wrong places which bands are pretty good at finding. But it doesn't matter what you play.
Yeah.
And the basis of rhythm is a quaver. It is a quaver that tells you whether you're playing in a duplet time or a triplet time. All right, you've got compound sounds like 2 and Alan Brave and 4-2 and whatever, well, substitute crotchets for quavers, if you like. But basic music, rhythm is based on a quaver.
Yeah.
And that's the most abused note in the musical language.
Yeah.
And I've heard performances of Corsair, and you get halfway through and you got this bright and breezy. No, it's not Corsair, Force and Destiny.
Oh,
You've got this wonderful tune, Allegro tune that comes in halfway through the piece. Da da dee 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 dee.
Yeah.
Da da da, and I've heard da da dee dee.
Yeah.
Da da dee dee dee. And I'm thinking, when you do that, that's a triplet quaver, and you've got a duplet quaver.
Yeah.
Well, it's basic.
Yeah.
It's basic. And if the composer wanted a triplet quaver, he would have written a triplet quaver. They're not.
Well, then that goes back to your conductor. Can he or she not spot it?
Well, if you can't do that in your band,
yeah. And then you'll get the same people that cannot spot that quaver is wrong. End up educated.
That, and as I say, that that's the basis of rhythm.
Yeah.
And if you're on a contest, and we're all aware that, I think as adjudicators, band number one comes on and plays the national anthem, it's not part of the contest. You can't avoid hearing it, can you?
No.
And goodness me, when they play that quaver, like a triplet quaver, and I'm thinking, well, why are you doing that? Why are you letting your band play that wrong?
And
You know, worse. It's wrong.
Yeah.
The third most important factor is balance. And balance is the ability to show off the detail of the music.
Yeah.
And in this day and age, when you've got lots of things going, there are preferences.
Mm-hmm.
Some might want to hear a bit more the trombone, somebody might want to hear a bit more the horns or the second and third chorus or whatever. So that's not cast in stone.
No.
It's like the old story that you can be racing about, well, I've got 40 here. I've got MF here. You're going to get it.
You're going to get my MF or my 40, regardless of what you're...
That's not going to help with balance, is it?
The conductor's references to what is important, to show off. But I would almost guarantee that the conductor that takes care of the sound of the band and takes care of the rhythm of the band will undoubtedly take care of the balance of the band.
Yeah,
right.
That's a pretty good bet.
Yeah,
that they do that, and those three things, they're not negotiable.
No.
In playing, they're not, because it's what it is. Now you can go on from there and start talking about shape and phrasing and style, but those are after those things. They let bands be more successful in contests when other bands aren't so good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are a bit of icing on the cake, isn't it, when they do that?
Yeah.
Doesn't mean to say they've got all the other things right, but that's the reason why they win with 148 points instead of 168 or whatever.
Yeah.
That sort of thing,
Yes.
And that's what bothers me is when I hear bands playing incorrectly.
Mm.
And I'm thinking, why are you letting your band play that? Because that's what you should be doing in your band room. It's not boring.
No.
It's not boring. Because it's, believe it or not, a chunk of that is what made the Fairy Band win.
Yeah.
Because they played like that.
Yeah.
They played all leaning over.
Yeah.
And you just straighten them up.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not boring.
No.
It's exciting when it works.
Yeah.
When it works.
So there you go. That was Derek's thoughts on adjudication, and I think it's something we are definitely intending to do a lot more about that next year, aren't we?
Have a good look into it.
Yeah, and I just think it's very interesting about. I think we do need to talk about the quality of the people who are judging us. We want them to be the best people, better than us. We want them better than us all the time. Right?
Absolutely.
So we have to be looking to get professional people involved. Proper musicians, real musicians who do this as a day job, not pretending that they're just, we've got a finger in about 10 different pies. I think we've got to up the ante with this.
Yes.
And I think he gave us a lot of food for thought there. So we will be expanding on that next year.
Okay, that's some of the what we thought were the highlights of 2025. I'd like to thank all our listeners for their observations and comments, emails, you name it. We get quite a big post back, Sandy, and it always gives us a bit of food for thought and fuel, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it takes a bit of planning, and we need to sort of get our ducks in a row and stuff. But there are. Yeah, we've got some fascinating stuff lined up. I mean, we're going to keep up with what we are calling the old sort of celebrity type things. We've interviewed the likes of Kevin Crawford and Mark Walters and Billy Rushworth, and they're just fascinating for the stories they've got and the way that they went about things and stuff like that. So we're going to carry on with those. We've got a few of them lined up, but we're also going to do a series of podcasts aimed at getting a more open discussion going about some of what we think are the most important aspects of banding today, which will include, like we just said, about adjudication, where we get adjudicators, what their credentials are. And then, something that's been in the news recently, there's a desperate need to reinvigorate British banding to be fully competitive with our European colleagues. We're lagging.
That is the most important thing in my mind at the minute. We really have got to do a lot of work and get like-minded people round the table and just find a way to make ourselves competitive again, especially at the top level, but as well get this pyramid sorted out. It's
absolutely
not right.
Yeah. There's a lot of things. I mean, some of them are sort of cross-referencing each other. How do we stimulate more open discussion and less secrecy? Everybody seems to be very protective of their own little tiny power base, and it's not doing British banding any good.
It's a perceived power base, though.
Yeah, it is okay. It's not really a power base. No,
they perceive it, and we've got to start talking.
The idea that these secret discussions go on without anyone knowing to keep the status quo, it's not good enough. We're lagging behind. No. Everybody knows it, and we need to allow our top bands. Here's an idea. Okay, top bands in Norway, you can name 2 or 3, right? Yeah. Switzerland the same. Top bands in Britain, there'd be an argument as to who the single top band is. You'd probably argue Ikanger in Norway, Valencia in Switzerland, Tres Etoiles, with Willebroek in Belgium. Britain, there's 4 or 5, 6 candidates for being the top band in Britain. Now, that could be a good thing.
Yeah,
you could argue, I suppose, it's more competitive and that, or it could just be that we've got bands that are not as good, and let's call a spade a spade. How do we help the top bands? And I know this is a discussion that a lot of people will balk at, right? Yeah. How do we help our top bands, all of them, be more competitive? And that means tougher competition in Britain.
Yeah.
Right? And we all know what we're talking about. We need to get smaller top section.
Yeah.
We've got to get it. If we want to be competitive, why would you not? I mean, I follow the rugby. I want, the teams I follow to be the most competitive. I want Scotland to be. They will struggle against the South Africans, obviously, and that sort of thing. Same with the football, right?
Yeah.
World Cup coming up, right? You want the strongest team you've got, right? The strongest, and how do you do that? By developing the best players.
Yeah.
Right? And we don't. We sometimes I think that it's a very British thing. We want to be good, but we don't want to be too good. We don't want to sort of help them too much to get better. But I think we need to reevaluate. Excuse me. We need to reevaluate how we can help the top bands. People will say, "Oh, they don't need any help. Leave them alone." All that stuff. They do. We need to help the top bands to get as competitive when they go abroad.
Yeah.
As they can.
But to help them, I mean, I don't want to get too much into this discussion.
No.
That pyramid, if it's constructed correctly, will help them. So it's all, you know, it all comes together, and it's so important that we get a talking shop and get this matter sorted out, because it's patently wrong.
Again, I know we did one, a couple of months ago. We're on about social theatre and all that stuff, and some of the stuff is a bit cringeworthy, in it, you know. I think we have to have a serious discussion about the usefulness of the Albert Hall now.
Yeah,
because it's not being filled. And I know there's a nostalgia thing, and I know the most important thing for a lot of banders these days seems to be not playing at the Albert Hall, but having a selfie on the stage.
I know.
And a picture outside and all that, you know. But when you hear what we're producing, top section wise, especially in that, you know, it's not as good. It's nowhere near as good as Norway and Switzerland and Belgium. And we need to fess up and say, how can we make it better? You know, there are too many top section bands. Let's call it this way. Well, yeah, they can't back up their status through their playing, right?
Yeah.
It reminded me, I heard an old Brian Clough quote on YouTube a couple of weeks ago. And he said, we had a good team on paper. The trouble was the game was played on grass.
Yeah.
And it's similar. We had a good band on Facebook, but once you listen to the audio, not so good. I just think it is, you know, I don't want to get into it too much now, but I think we've got to desperately discuss the need to how we can get the best quality contests in Britain.
We've got to up his game.
Yeah. We have, and there's got to be, you know, open, fast discussion.
Yeah.
Right? But it means everybody engaging. Apathy, as usual, is a biggie. We need to get it going. But I think we've done some interesting stuff this year. A bit of a mixture. We're going to try and keep the mixture up, and maybe put a few more sort of hard-hitting ones out, see if we can generate discussion. I don't give a monkeys if people disagree with us or not.
Well, Sandy, our mission statement was always to generate discussion.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I don't care if they agree or disagree.
We're not bothered.
I want people to talk about it, but it's so clear that the apathy involved is ruining it.
Yeah, it is.
You know, and we've got to move forward. But there are ways of doing it, and if we can get more discussion and open discussion all over the place, then I think so be it. But the far better for it. We can't go on the way it is, just limping along, pretending that everything's great, because
it's not.
The grass is greener elsewhere.
It is very green. So, Sandy, thanks for joining me on this roundup for 2025. It's been really interesting, so thanks for your company. But more so, thanks for the listeners' company. The listens on YouTube are growing all the time, and so we thank you for that. Keep your comments coming in, because like I said earlier, they give us fuel. So I'd like to wish our listeners a very Merry Christmas, not too merry though, and wish you a great 2026.